Welcome to Networking with Nathaniel, a podcast where I get to talk to movers and shakers, entrepreneurs, business owners, real estate investors who are making waves in their industries. They're learning and they're growing. If that is you, if you're somebody who is looking to grow, you've come to the right place. I am Nathaniel Hovsepian. I am the host of Networking with Nathaniel. I am a health and wellness coach for dads, a real estate investor. More importantly, though, I am a husband and a father to 3 little people. But this show is not about me. It is about those amazing guests that I get the opportunity to talk to and you get the opportunity to learn from. If this is your first time here, hang out for a little bit, see if you like the show, what we're doing here. I'd love for you to subscribe to the channel. That way you can get future videos, all the content that we're dropping, and please hit that like button so you can help us reach other people. Today's guest is like all the guests. As I mentioned, he's learning, he's growing, he's here to share his successes and his struggles so you can help avoid the pitfalls that he's had in his business. I look forward to learning more about what he's doing. Our guest today is a member of Sub 2, as I am. We've known each other for a little while, but this is the first time we're actually having a conversation. He is also a founding member, if you will, of Owners Club. So this is his second year in Owners Club. He is a land investor inside or located in Greenville, South Carolina. So he's not actually too far from me. Welcome to the show, Teddy Benz.
Thanks for having me, Nathaniel. I'm
Thanks for coming, man.
excited for the opportunity to hopefully educate and help other people learn and grow, but I'm even more excited to just maybe learn and grow through this conversation with you.
Yeah, I appreciate that. I love that you're coming here with an open mind, that there is a learning opportunity for you as well. I know from the land investing side, which is what you are, primarily focused on, I'm pretty oblivious. I don't really know land investing kind of at all. So we've been very, very focused on single family during our real estate investing career. So I guess kind of start me out. I'm a newbie with when it comes to land investing. What is somebody looking for?
Yeah, just like in residential or commercial real estate, there's so many different strategies that, like, being a land investor does not mean one specific thing. So
Mm,
I'm someone who looks to buy properties that I can subdivide, take a large tract, chop it up into a few smaller tracts, sell them off individually. And I can go into the strategy behind that, but there are so many other ways. Like, people will just buy land, hold it, and then sell it, make a profit. And that could
mm,
be within a month, that could be within a year, that could be within 10 years. It could be a very long-term play. Then you also have people who they lease it out to hunters, or they let a timbering company come in and clear out the trees, and they have a lease in that way, or rent it out to a cell tower company. And then on, like, the extreme end, you have major subdivides, and that's where you'll see, like, developers and builders go in there and create brand new neighborhoods or mixed use facilities and stuff like that. And so I'm kind of personally in the nice little sweet spot, I think, where it's some form of development, but relatively simple. It doesn't break my brain too much.
yeah,
But yeah, there's so many ways that you can get involved in investing in land. I mean, even as
yeah.
simple as wholesaling it, I would consider investing in a way.
So, okay, so yeah, there's a lot of follow-on questions to this, which is exactly why I started the way we started here. Uh, where do we go? Well, I guess to hone in on what you're specifically doing, it sounds like you're not you're not doing any developing, you're not doing any infrastructure or anything like that even. Is that correct?
A little bit of infrastructure, but
Okay.
not what most people think of when they think of, like, development. Like, I'm not bringing in new roads. I'm really not adding new utilities. I might connect to utilities. Like, there might be a lot where I'll say, hey, I'll tap into the existing water or existing public sewer that's there, or get some percolation tests done to maybe install a septic tank or not, if there's enough value in actually installing it. So A little bit, but not like to what people think, where you're going in there, like clearing out all the trees, grading it, getting it nice and flat for houses or something like that. Very, very
Okay.
simple, the basics.
Okay. So when hmm, where do you where are you acquiring? How are you going about finding the properties?
So like specific regions, I'm in Greenville, South Carolina. I focus on
Mhm.
the Southeast. So
Okay.
that's South Carolina, North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia. And I don't do that because those are the only places that I would want to do it. In fact, I would happily do a land deal nationwide because I don't have to worry about I'm not holding these properties in the sense of like, oh, I'm going to have a residential tenant who is very protected by certain laws in certain states. And like, I don't have to worry about red state versus blue state versus landlord friendly versus not. I just have to be able to read the specific laws and ordinances in that state or specific county, and that's publicly available stuff. So like I would do it anywhere happily. I just focus on the Southeast because that's where I am. That's what I know well. That's where I know the most people, and people want to buy land here. And so I market in a couple different ways. Most of it is cold outreach. So I do the typical digital stuff. Cold calling, cold texting, ringless voicemails and emails. But then I also do direct mail, which I know isn't as common in the residential space for marketing, but in land, it's like the gold standard that like almost every land, like true land acquisitions company uses.
Interesting. Okay. Do you have any reasoning why that might be?
Yeah. So typically, the people that are going to sell a property at the best price, they're ready to go, are people who've owned the property for a while. And they tend to be on the older side.
Hmm.
And so they're sure you can reach them via text or calling, but it's much, much more likely that they're not all that tech savvy. And especially in the Southeast, where I'm marketing in particular, the extra little effort of sending out a piece of mail goes a long way in building rapport as well. And
Okay.
so it just hits a different audience that you might not be able to reach over the phone, and it hits in a different way. And
Yeah.
in the land space, it just there's a lot of you know rapport building, as opposed to really digging for motivation or a problem. It's more so just like getting the people to like you and be willing to sell, especially with like the larger tracts of land that I'm looking at. There's like a lot of times they own this land, they'll sell it or they won't. They don't have any like pressing need to sell it, and so you really just need to put your best foot forward and continue showing them that you're an upstanding person and business, and able to stand out from all the people sending the mass
Mm.
stuff. And that's not to say that I don't do all the mass marketing as well, but it's not as effective usually.
Yeah, interesting. It, I'm reminded here of the people want to do business with those they like and trust. And so by having the different touch points that you're touching them, they're seeing, okay, this person's serious, and then it's about building the rapport with them. Is So it sounds like, so you have the location demographic. I know that you mentioned, I'll do deals anywhere, but this is where you're focused on.
Mhm.
And you also mentioned that a lot of it seems like, at least I'm kind of inferring here, that a lot of the deals that you've done are of the older generation where they're like, hey, we've been holding this for a while. Are there any other marketing criteria that you're going after? And I'll give like over an acre, must have owned the property for 2 years, those types of things.
Yep. Generally, it has to be at least a year.
Okay.
I will still market to those, but it's kind of like a staged approach where it's like, but if the most recent transfer was like an intra-family transfer, like a probate or something like that, well, then anytime, like within the last year, I'll
Okay.
market to. And it's also area specific as well. Like I'll market to someone who bought in the last year in one day to Greenville and Spartanburg counties, just because that's where I know I want to do the most volume. It's like, okay, I might as well just get them in the pipeline. And sure, maybe something's not going to come of it, or they're not going to be willing to sell at a price that makes sense, but at least I'm making that touch point with them. Whereas
Right.
in other areas like Middle Tennessee, Northwestern North Carolina, I break that range out a little further to 3+ years, just to give a little bit of time to like, okay, this is probably someone who didn't just like, something like me, like buy it as an investment, and
Right.
they're gonna like flip it in the short term or have built on it. It's like, okay, they've held it for a little bit, so some time has passed where, you know, hopefully there's been some appreciation or something has changed in their life where it's like, I don't need this land anymore. Like I'll sell it at still a profit for them, but at a discount compared to like what you could get top dollar, on the MLS.
Yeah. It seems like with the land side of things, you're maybe a little bit less concerned about getting that equity kind of built in with single family or even multifamily properties where it's like I got to have value add, I got to have the equity built in so I have margin here.
Mhm.
You're creating margin, you are specifically by chopping it up and dividing the land up. Is there a size of land like, hey, I won't buy anything under this acreage?
No, it's just the smaller it gets, the less likely it is something that'll work for me. It's just the larger the parcel is, the more likely it is that you can get enough parcels out of it, chopping it up, that the profit will make sense, paying
Okay.
market value or a little bit less.
Yeah.
So on the smaller lots, say like 5 acres or less, getting it at a price where like there is that inbuilt equity is very important, because you can only add so much value, and typically it's just by building on it. Like you find these half-acre parcels in a neighborhood, you're going to the only thing you can do is build a house, and so that's what's going to go there. And unless you're building the house yourself, the only way that you make money is by getting it at one price and being able to sell it at a higher price. And
Yeah.
so I typically wholesale those, and I don't market for them a ton. That would be only in upstate South Carolina where I'm at, because I know the most people. To repeat myself over again, but like I break my criteria rules in upstate South Carolina because I'm here, I'm local, and
Yeah.
it can just go smoother here.
Yeah.
Whereas in other places, not that I wouldn't do parcels that are smaller, but I only market for 20+ acres. And the reason being is that it casts out a large enough net, or it's parcels that are large enough where I can make a couple key assumptions. And so in the states that I market to in particular, and especially South Carolina, there's called an exempt subdivide law that extends across the entire state. And what that says is that if you are dividing into new parcels, and those new parcels are 5 or more acres, then you're exempt from pretty much any requirement in
Mm.
studies or going to like boarding or board reviews, things like that. You're pretty much exempt from all of that, except you need to meet road frontage requirements, which is typically like 50 to 100 feet. So
Interesting.
so that's not to say that that's the only way that you can, or that I would do a subdivide, but I just know that in the back of my head is like, okay, I can take this 20 acres, I can chop it into 4 or 5 acre parcels.
Yeah.
And North Carolina is 10 acres. And so so take 20 acres. Okay, I can get 2 parcels out of that. Great. So I know that at worst case, I can do that no matter what. That's a state thing. And then, if I'm
Okay.
looking at a certain parcel in a certain county, well, that's when I'll be like, oh, well, there are 2 acre tracts that are selling here at a pretty good price. I might have to go through some extra work in order to accomplish that, right? I might have to go to a hearing to get it approved, or maybe not. It just depends on the county. And so it's like kind of like a case by case. It's like, okay, well,
Mm.
does this work? Like worst case scenario with these 5 acre parcels? If not, well, how much of a lift is it to get to those smaller parcels, and is that extra lift worth it? Because will I make good profit on it? And
Yeah.
so So my very first subdivide, I wasn't marketing specifically for subdivides. I just kind of like doing my due diligence. I was like, oh, this could work out well. So it was just a 10-acre parcel, which is of course smaller than that 20 threshold I gave. But when I was, learning about what I could do or couldn't do, I was like, oh, chopping this into 3-acre parcels won't be too bad. It's just getting a surveyor out there and submitting it for a review, and it doesn't even have to be an in-person review. Someone will just look at it and be like, yeah, that looks good, stamp of approval, and record it. If I had been, so this was in Spartanburg, South Carolina. If I had been doing it in, say, like Charlotte, North Carolina, or a big metro where it's very, very, very regulated, lots of requirements, I might have had to like give a survey of all the trees on the property or something, like get someone out there to mark, like, well, like we need to know, like, if this tree there's going to be like a reason to remove it because you divided it this way or that way, or like all these different like impact studies and stuff like that could have been on the table if it were in a different county. Luckily not in Spartanburg, but it's a thing to consider if, case by case.
I'm interested. I have a couple more. I keep writing stuff down. I don't know if you noticed. I have a couple more acquisition questions. I'm interested in the due diligence that you're doing, and then the dispo side of things as well. We're going to go cut to a quick commercial break here for Fit Fatherhood, and we'll be right back, though.
If you're a busy dad or you know one that is looking to focus on their health and their wellness, the Fit Fatherhood community might be just for you. It's said that when we have our health, it frees us up to have many, many goals, but when we don't, we only focus on the one. So we're focused on keeping our health and wellness as a top priority in Fit Fatherhood. We've built this community of busy dads, all like-minded, looking to grow and flourish and be great examples for our families of what health and wellness looks like. So if that's you, or you know somebody who that might be for, follow the link in the description and come join the Fit Fatherhood Facebook group today. Let's get back to the show.
So I mentioned at the top of this that we're both in the sub 2 group, the sub 2 community. You're also an owners club, which is not sub 2 specific, but it's kind of a smaller group that Pace and Jamil have put together. When it comes to acquiring land, from a single family perspective, we have cash, which can be your own cash, hard money lenders, private money lenders, and then we have creative financing, subject to seller finance. You can even do novations. There's a lot of other ways that you can acquire properties. When it comes to land, are you doing creative deals, or is it all cash? And then on the cash deals, I know I'm going to ask a lot of stuff here. On the cash side of things, is there like a hard money product? What does that look like?
Yeah. So primarily I've done cash.
Okay.
And that's getting private money lenders involved, just regular old people that I've made connections with who are happy to lend. That I haven't done the best job of raising that capital or lining it up. And so when I get into a bigger deal, and I'm going through one right now where I need $550,000 for it, that's kind of pushing the limits of what the regular old people that I know who are willing to lend based on me and the numbers I've shared with them, as opposed to like just the numbers and like needing to be at certain loan to values and stuff like that. So I've personally pushed my limits with this property where it's like, I really wish I had more private lenders who would lend to me, and trying to go out there and get, a traditional type product is not the easiest thing to do with at least the strategies that I use, which is just subdividing the land and selling off the raw land. We do creative, and that comes in a lot of different flavors, which are useful for different situations. And so if you're familiar with wraps, you buy on seller financing, sell it on seller financing, just mark up the terms a little bit. That's perfectly applicable to land, just like it is with a house. And typically that is more suitable for residential or recreational land. And so it's the same idea where someone may not be able to afford buying the property outright in cash, but they could make a down payment and they could afford a monthly payment. So if I can structure acquisition terms that are less than the disposition terms, then I create a spread for myself, both in purchase price, down payment, and the monthly payment. And so I've done a few of those. I've even done one where it wasn't even a wrap because I got it under contract for $8,000 and my buyer's down payment was $15,000.
Oh,
And they bought it for $30,000. So like it
okay.
wasn't even a wrap. Their down payment just cleared out
Yeah.
the cash purchase price. And so the creative is, certainly a very viable and useful strategy as well. Where it starts to get maybe a little different is with larger parcels, especially if the plan is to do a major subdivision or something like that, where there are actual conventional loan products out there that you can use to fund your development and vertical construction. Where it gets tricky doing creative there is if you seller finance, then there's a first position note on that property seller financing. And then I'm gonna be like, hey, I want to get this development construction loan on this property. Well, they're gonna be like, I want to be in first position. And that,
Yeah.
creates a problem. So either you need to have a seller who's willing to subordinate that note, or better yet, just do like an equity partnership with them, which you might consider like a novation, similar in concept, where
Mhm.
it's like, hey, contribute the land to this project, and I'll bring all the resources, the capital, the know-how to actually carry it out. And what you would effectively do is create an LLC or an entity that holds the property, where you and the seller are partners together. And then that way, the land, the property itself, is unencumbered, and now you can put that new debt in first position and use the land as like a down payment on the new construction or development loan product.
Yeah.
And so
Interesting.
I don't do that because I'm not a big developer. I don't do a lot of hard development, and I don't do new construction, and so I haven't needed to use that, but I at least know enough to like be able to structure it or know what a developer would be looking for.
Yeah. I know enough to be dangerous. I I don't think I have any more questions on the acquisition side of things. Well, I guess the due diligence is going to maybe go both. My due diligence question is going to maybe bleed a little bit into the acquisitions, the marketing side of things. But when you're marketing for properties, and then once you get them under contract, are there specific things that you're looking for, going, hey, that's a red flag, that's not going to work? And I know you kind of talked about the size of the property, but my thought goes to, yeah, I live out in the woods down here in North Augusta, South Carolina, and there was a property that was listed for sale, like 50 acres within walking distance to me, and it was at the bottom of the hill. And if you don't know what you're looking for, that property gets flooded constantly. Every time it rains, it's at the bottom of the hill and it's just a muck. So are there things that you see as a land investor that goes like, nah, that's not a good deal?
Yeah. So there's the numbers side to a property. What is it's selling for, price per acre? What can I realistically get this property under contract for, price per acre? But all of that's irrelevant if the physical nature of the property is compromised. And so one of the things that I love about land as compared to residential is that I can find out pretty much everything I need to find out about the property without the seller's involvement at all. I
Mm,
don't have to ask like, oh, did you put in
yeah.
an
When's the last time you
unpermitted
updated it?
bathroom or something? It's like, it says
Yeah.
2-1 on Zillow, but you're telling me that it's a 4-bed, 4-bath. Like, how did this
Yeah.
happen? Is it
Yeah.
legal? Like, I don't know. With land, you just every county has what's called a geographic information system, or GIS, and so you can just
Yeah.
type in Greenville County GIS, Spartanburg County GIS, and you'll find it. Some are really good, some are not so good. So the really good ones, though, they provide a bunch of information. One of them is the topography. So that's the way that the property slopes. So, you pull up that 50 acres you mentioned, look at it on the GIS map, you'll see, oh, there must be a pretty good slope to this property. And even though I look at topo maps a lot, it still always, breaks my brain a little bit trying to figure out like, what is the exact slope here? Like I pull out like the measure tool and I'm like, okay.
Okay.
Got to remember my like XYZ slope formula from school. It's like,
Yeah.
So I typically like to just use like Google Earth. It's really nice because you can rotate around it and just see like, oh, that's the slope. And the slope has a big impact. A property on the side of a mountain is not going to be as valuable as a property that is super flat and you can build on easily. However, it's area specific. It might be in an area where it's like, oh, actually, I want to build on the side of the mountain because there's great views. And so you need to kind of understand that nuance. Like, is this like just like a random cliff somewhere, or is this like a prime community where people actually want to build? And so, along with that is, properties that are like ditches, like that's almost immediately like, nope, but because water or a stream is going to be running through there most likely. And then speaking of that would be the floodplain. So FEMA, the Federal Emergency, I don't remember what the rest of it stands for, but they maintain a flood map and they dictate over the next 100 years, how likely is it that this property is going to flood? I imagine that 50 acres, there's probably a very nice floodplain on it. And that's a big issue. It's not impossible to work with it, but if you're going to be building houses or any kind of vertical construction on it, it's going to have a big impact, because if you did want to build there, you're going to have to take a whole bunch of steps that are going to be time consuming and costly and probably not worth it at the end of the day. It could still be great for hunting land or something like that, but that depends on where the property is exactly. Is it, this one, the size, and two, in the location where it's going to be okay to hunt on or something like that. And so none of the slope, having a floodplain, neither of those is an immediate disqualifier, but it's something to be concerned about and to consider, like, can this work here? If it's a small half-acre lot in a community that's a ditch and there's a floodplain running through the whole thing, it's like, well, that thing's worthless. And so, the shape plays a role as well. That is both like how much road frontage it has, but also just like the depth and the width of it. You'll find very odd, like skinny lots all over the place, or lots that are landlocked and you don't even have access to. And those could be problems. But typically with smaller parcels, like typically the larger a parcel is, the more likely it is that you could redeem, the problems on a property. Like that 50 acres, probably the entire thing isn't on a down slope. There's probably some sections of it that are relatively flat. So maybe you just like bring in a road that kind of like, slopes down and then goes back up. And then there's a nice drive place where someone could want to build a property. Great. So it's really looking at it in the entirety. Like, okay, yes, there's a floodplain, but it only takes up 10% of this 100-acre property. Not a big deal. And so it goes in so many different ways. Like, there's, utilities are a big thing, but that's something that doesn't disqualify a property not having access to utilities. It more so just impacts the value, right? If a property has public sewer, then that's going to be more valuable than a property that doesn't and needs a septic tank, because septic tanks come with extra costs and they're less desirable. Whereas sewer, you just tap into once and you're great. You don't have to think about it. And there's a lot of value in that. And so there's lots of other little things, related to that, is the property cleared? Is it not cleared? And, just looking at it it's very, very, lots of things to consider, and not the easiest to find comps, I'll say, because there are quite a few factors. I'm not looking for a 3-bed, 2-bath house. I'm looking for, a property that has a little bit of slope but does also have like water frontage, and like half of it is floodplain. And like, so it's a very like squishy, is this worth going after type thing, which is from experience, which, that's a good thing as far as like, being, in it all the time, where it gives me a bit of an advantage where I can like I can do it quickly. But it wasn't like that at the beginning. I had to learn a lot to, get to where I am now. So
how long have you been doing this now?
Almost 2 years.
Okay. Yeah, the way you're talking is like there's a lot of little, and I think to take the word right out of your mouth, there's a lot of little nuances here that
Yep.
if you don't know what you're looking for, you can get yourself into a situation where you can't dispo it. You can't get,
Yep.
there's nothing to do on the back end of it. And
If I
lost
may,
the
to add
train of
on
thought.
to that, the
Yeah.
one of the big reasons I don't want to do major entitlement development work myself is because that gets into like the extreme of needing to know like every little detail. And
Mm,
if you don't, then you could ruin the deal just by missing one little thing. And a
yeah.
perfect example of this is like, okay, I know that in general, on these major subdivides, like where they're going in there and taking 100 acres and putting in like 300 lots, something like that, they need to have 2 points of egress. So roads that lead out of this community. You can't just have one road. You need to have
Mhm.
at least two, and that's typically for emergency, like fire safety, that kind of stuff. You don't want to create a bottleneck. Okay, I know that kind of thing. I know that they want to have sewer almost always because that just makes the cost so much better.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it just becomes a lot more valuable. And so I found a property up in Tennessee. It was 100 something acres that fit, like it seemed perfect. And turns out that there were some issues with it that didn't make it make sense at the end of the day. But I was speaking to my friend who does do a lot of entitlements, getting his feedback, seeing if he wanted to work on it with me. And he just like threw out something that was very like, basic, I guess, in his mind. But for me, I was like, whoa, like I didn't even think about that. And so, yes, there was sewer, but what I didn't think about or didn't know was, does that sewer have capacity? And that is to say, sure, you could
Mm,
physically make 300 properties, but can the sewer handle 300 more properties? And
yeah.
so my friend was like, hey, it's very simple. You just call up the sewer authority and ask them for a letter of capacity and say, yes, we verify that we can handle 100 properties or 300 properties or something like that. It's like, okay, that's great. You can find that out super easily. But like, what if you don't even know that you needed to ask that?
Right.
You get 6 months and $100,000 into soft cost due diligence down the road. And then someone brings up the sewer and you're like, oh,
Yeah.
I can only
Who
get 50
who
houses when I thought that I could get 500. And that blows up the
Yeah.
entire thing.
Mm,
And just missing that one little bit could completely ruin it. And so that's why
yeah.
I personally want to stay away from it, because I know that there's so much to it. And I would always be worried that I was missing something. It would drive me crazy. So I stick with my simple stuff.
Yeah, like, you've got a niche that you're familiar with and comfortable with and is working for you. Why reinvent the wheel, so to speak? And who
Yeah.
knows that maybe 2 or 3 years down the line, you've kind of learned more of those things and you go, "Okay, now I wanna do the development." Maybe I'm burnt out doing this and I wanna do something bigger and more extravagant. Who knows? It You're just taking action every day and leading towards doing the next deal and the next thing. I think I have kind of an idea on this, but when you're subdividing these, who's your end buyer?
Because of the way that I divide them, they're usually still larger tracts of 3+ acres, and my goal is to maximize my profit, even if it takes a little bit longer to sell the property. I'm typically selling them off to individuals who just want to
Okay.
build a primary residence, and so these are as you start to get closer and closer to a metropolitan area, the less likely it is that you're going to find 20+ acres to begin with. And so, typically the people that are buying these want to build their house, their dream home, and so they're not worried about their bottom dollar, like how much am I paying for this property, and does it make sense, like as an investment, to build a house and then be able to sell for a profit. They're like, no, I just want to build the right house in the right area, and they value privacy and having a bit of space for themselves, and so they're willing to live, say, 30-35 minutes outside of the big city,
Yeah.
because the benefit of a little bit of extra space at a more affordable price than it would take to get that kind of space in the city is worth it to them.
Mm.
And I wouldn't be opposed to it, but I could sell all of these lots to a builder who wanted to build like spec homes and sell them off to individuals. But they're going to care about their bottom dollar. They're going to want a discount. And so it's more likely that I would have to sell at a discount, which isn't bad. Time is money. So, if a builder came and said, I'll buy all these lots for, 50 grand less than we're going to make selling them all off, that would make a lot of sense. But if he came and said, I'm going to buy them all for $300,000 less than what you could sell them off, individuals like, no, I'll just hang out and wait until the right buyers come along. And so,
how are you going about finding those buyers? Is this just listing it on the MLS, or do you have a buyer's pool? What does that look like?
Building a buyer's pool slowly. I've organically built it pretty well in the Greenville area, just from networking, meeting a lot of people, telling I do land. It's like, oh, I'm looking for some land. Like, I'm originally from Buffalo, New York, and so I was talking to a lady who owns a portfolio of houses up there, and she was asking about me and what I do, and I told her, oh, I do land in South Carolina. She's like, oh, I'm looking for some land in South Carolina. So like, it'll just like come up because land is like, in my experience, is like thing that makes people's eyes light up a little bit. It's like, oh, I don't know anything about land, but I would love to know more, or I want some land, so keep me in mind. And so it just kind of like comes up organically, at least in South Carolina where I'm at. But as far as, hey, I have property and I need to sell it, it's again a little bit of a decision tree. Like, what type of property is this? If I'm just trying to, it's a 1 acre lot that I'm not going to subdivide or anything, I'm probably not going to actually buy it and then list it on market, because there's, extra costs with that. I've got my closing costs on the purchase, on the sale. I'm going to have taxes, not that they're, that big, but, there are certain holding costs to holding the property. And then, private capital to fund it. And at the end of the day, it's like, well, I would rather just wholesale it at a cheaper price and not have to like spend all the time to find the right buyer who, at the end of the day, like, well, that extra profit I made is getting eaten up by a whole bunch of costs. So in that situation, Facebook Marketplace and local Facebook groups, that's where I find almost all buyers in that case. I tried doing Craigslist and didn't really work out too well. And I have a dream of building out, a bigger buyers list, but also it's like, Facebook's working fine. So, that's what I'm doing for now. On the larger subdivides where it's like, hey, it's going to take some time to sell these off, to find the right buyer, less likely to find them on Facebook, at least as like a wholesale opportunity, because they're going to, not that end buyers are all that savvy, but when you tell them like, hey, this is where it is, they might look it up on the map and be like, wait, this says it's 50 acres and you're selling 5. Like, how does that even work? And see if I explain all that. And so it is a lot easier to just like own the properties already subdivided and just list them like that. And then people can look it up and be like, oh, okay, this is the property I'm getting.
That makes sense.
And so in that case, MLS, I've been talking with and considering doing auctions. I know a couple other land subdividers, flippers who have gone that approach, and it is really nice because people, it creates a bit of scarcity. It's like, oh, this is only gonna be available for a day, and it creates some competition where it's like, oh, I can't lose it to them, or like I need the bigger one, or it just drives the price up a little bit. So I haven't done it, but I'm very, very heavily considering it now that I know about it and how that would work.
What's keeping you from doing that?
I guess having the project that I was ready to go with. I've been, it's a slow game to actually get a property under contract where the stars align and it makes sense to really do a simple subdivide. And so part of that is just doing more marketing or changing the marketing. And like, so I've, over the past 2-3 months, have become a lot better about telling people what I do. This is a great example, just talking to you here. Just like letting people know, and hopefully that, and it has, but hopefully it keeps, leading to more, is just people sending me potential opportunities. I only have so much bandwidth to do my own outbound marketing. And that'll, even the leads that I do have who say, yeah, this is the price I want to sell it at, I'll say, great, I will pay you that. Let's do it. And they're like, actually, you know what? I don't know if I want to sell, because it's that lead type where it's like, there's a reason they own that larger parcel. They're probably
Yeah,
more
they've got
savvy
that.
or well
Yeah.
off. And so it's like, they'll sell it when they sell it. And, just, I probably have like 20 properties like that in my CRM where it's like, just keep building that rapport and, hopefully get them to like me enough where it's like, okay, finally they'll sell it and then we can take on the project.
Yeah. Be in front of them when they finally go, okay, I'm going to sell it.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
So they're good wins when you get them, but they're, at least at the scale that I'm at, I have a partner and 2 VAs. The scale that I'm at, I'm not personally generating enough leads where it's like, okay, like I'm expecting to have a subdivide every month or something like that. So
Right.
I learned about the auction side of it like in the past month and a half, and just, haven't had something to pull it on the trigger yet.
I mentioned, Sub 2 and Owners Club. You're in Owners Club. This is your second year now. To put you on the spot, everybody who's come on to Networking with Nathaniel that is in Owners Club has gotten this question: is what is the Mount Everest that you've worked on inside of Owners Club?
Oh man, I'm going to throw you for a real loop here.
Okay.
I am building the most powerful yet easy to use AI infrastructure for real estate investors and entrepreneurs. So development of some sort, but very different world of development.
Yeah. Can you elaborate on this at all, or is this behind closed doors, hush hush type of thing?
Oh no, I can for sure.
Okay.
So real estate is a lot about data. There are lots of tools out there, whether that's pulling data or using that data to market or to analyze a deal, a property, to get capital, to pitch your deal. Like there's so much real estate software out there, and it's very disjointed in my experience. Lots of pulling down spreadsheets, uploading spreadsheets into something else, manually keeping track of stuff. And there are some solutions out there. If you're familiar with, some of the more popular CRMs, they typically allow you to customize quite a bit, but that customization is usually a lot of just like duct tape and bubble gum sticking stuff together. And it's like, it makes sense for the person who built it, but okay, now someone else wants to do it. It's like, well, this doesn't make quite as much sense for them. And so I don't think that there is one platform that is super seamless throughout the entire process of doing real estate. And so my goal and what I'm working on right now is actually building the software tools to accomplish a lot of things, from not only, lead, or I guess like prospect pulling, right? Figuring out who am I even going after, to marketing to them, to analyzing the deals, to getting them under contract, to disposing them, like all the different steps in it, like have it all live under one roof without having to, fit a square peg into a round hole like you have to do with a lot of existing CRMs that aren't built specifically for real estate.
Right.
Just make it more seamless and make it like super simple to use. There are, certain tools that are good, but they take a more tech savvy or like power user brain to do them. And so they work, but they're not as usable for the masses. And in real estate, I've noticed that people aren't the most tech savvy, and their eyes glaze over when you start talking about certain things. And so, even having some experience, like trying to train people firsthand on this thing, like very simple, like computer-based concepts that are like second nature for me, and go completely over people's heads. And so what I'm working on creating is like the most like simple experience possible. And that's not just like in the user interface, but my goal, and why it's my Mount Everest and is going to take me a few years, is to effectively create like an AI agent, right? Like kind of replace real estate agents in a way, like, and make it go like well beyond that. And so, you ChatGPT, the big name that, popularized, a conversational AI where you just tell it, this is what I want you to do. And it does something. And it's like, I want it to be this way. That's what I want to accomplish with my tools. And so it's a staged approach, because first you need to build the tools with the infrastructure, the APIs that connect to this, that, and the other thing. But then you also need to train AI on top of it to actually be able to now do the things that your tools are able to do, and understand like, oh, if I want to send out an offer, it's like, okay, well, I need to hit this function or this API that sends out the contract with like it predefined with like the terms that we were already talking about, et cetera, et cetera. And so I'm working on it, and we're getting there. But that's my big Mount Everest.
Yeah, I like this. This is a lot of the Mount Everest you hear is like, oh, I want to house 100,000 people, or I want a dog farm that takes in rescues. This is a different one. It's more helping yourself in a sense, and helping you from a couple years ago, and helping all the other people that are not as tech savvy and don't have that one-stop shop, because there isn't a one-stop shop from data acquisition to property in portfolio or dispo or whatever. So this is interesting. And harnessing AI inside of it. So I think I've asked all the land questions that I could possibly ask right now based on what we've talked about. Is there anything that I've maybe missed?
Regarding land, no, you hit the pretty high level stuff. If I start throwing out questions, it's going to get into like a weird minutia that I don't know
Yeah,
anyone
dude.
wants to know.
Yeah. And we don't need to get too in the weeds here on the land stuff. Is there anything that on the AI side that you wanted to talk about that maybe you're needing, that anybody out there that's listening might be able to help you out with, or on the system that you're building side of things?
I need a developer help. So
Okay.
a big misconception with AI is that it's magical and that it can do lots of stuff. And while it does absolutely help, it speeds up workflows, and it helps me a lot, like in debugging my code. It is not a replacement for a developer
Right.
yet, and I don't know if it ever will be. And it can hallucinate a lot too. So there's a lot of having to reel it back in. And unless you know what you're doing, then you can just blindly trust the AI, and it'll take you off in a very bad direction. And
Right.
so while I've heard some people, say like, oh, Manus can, replace DocuSign. Like it put everything together and it like made a product exactly like DocuSign. It's like, well, no, it made something
Yeah.
that looks like it.
Right.
But what about like the payment processing and this, that, and the other thing, and encryption and all this stuff? Like it wasn't like, it takes a lot more effort to implement that. And AI can help you do it, but you still need a developer mindset to be able to accomplish that. And so
Okay.
it's there's a lot that goes into developing an app, a lot more than people think. You have to think about all the different edge cases and all the different things that a user might do to break it, and account for it, implement all the functionality. And there's so many pieces, that plumbing that fits together, that for a software developer aren't difficult, but take some time to map out and engineer properly. And so
Right.
I'm working on it with a partner, and we have other things that we're doing. We're involved in real estate full time. I've got my land business to attend to. I've got other real estate I do as well, and that takes up time that I can't. I'm not always able to commit as much time as I would like to development. So that is my biggest need, is other people who can help me with that. And it's kind of a bit of a catch-22 with probably that person. Well, either that person needs to be paid a salary, and I don't know that I want to bring on a salaried software developer at this stage, where like we're basically just like working out like a lot of issues. Like that could be a huge expense that goes on for a long time if it takes longer to develop than we expect. Or need someone who's kind of crazy like me and is like willing to work on it for free, with like the upside of like, hey, have a little bit of equity in this. So a little bit of a catch-22 there. It's like it should really be like an living product making money, to be like, okay, yeah, I can definitely cover your salary every month. It's the same thing. I mean, running a business, just like operating real estate, is like, yeah, you could buy a house that's vacant and needs a lot of work. But unless you like know for sure that you can get that work done and then, get it leased out to cover your expenses. Like, well, is that a project that's worth taking on? So if you buy a turnkey house that, oh, these are my expenses and this is how much I can bring in. It's like, oh, okay, great. That I can do that
Easy to
easily.
analyze. Yeah.
So similar thing here with business is like, I would love to, have it bringing in enough income where I'm like, okay, I can bring on a salaried developer and not like in a year be like, well, sorry, I can't pay
Yeah.
this because we haven't launched the app yet.
Yeah. So okay, we're getting to the top of the hour. Holy moly, it's been 50 minutes already. That's what happens when I don't know what the heck I'm talking about and I'm learning from somebody. It's just the conversation goes. If somebody has development skills, and they're interested in coming on and having a conversation with you about this, or if they've got land, they're interested in getting into land, what's the best way to reach out to you, Teddy?
The best place would be Instagram. That's just
Okay.
at Teddy Benz. That's where I'll see messages and get back the quickest.
Yeah. Awesome. So that I'll do my best to make sure that that gets in the show notes there so people can just click on that and get a hold of you on Instagram. I wanted to ask some kind of, you're running a land development business, land real estate investing business. I guess development, you're cutting it up and yeah.
Yeah, it is a form of development.
Yeah.
I could go into the distinction between different.
No, let's not do that, Teddy.
If you want me to, but yeah, we'll start getting into the weeds.
For time constraints, let's because that's just the rabbit hole that I'll end up asking more questions down too, probably.
Yeah.
On your habit side of things, I'm assuming here you're still pretty young, right? You've got energy. But you're running a business, multiple businesses. It sounds like you're developing this app. Are there any habits that you do on a daily basis that kind of fuel you, give you energy, make sure that you're mentally focused?
Yep. I go for a walk every day. It's a non-negotiable. Typically, I approach about 2 hours every day. But,
Wow.
some days I'm more busy than others and it might be
Yeah.
more like half an hour. But like that's a non-negotiable for me because
Yeah.
I love being active and exercise, but like the, lifting weights or running, it can be strenuous and, for a time make you even maybe a little more tired. So I like walking because it's nice and simple. It's easy to do. I can do it while taking a phone call. I can do it while taking notes or thinking about something on my, it does energize me. So I walk every day.
Yeah. What do you do on days that it's raining? Because
I bring my umbrella.
do you really? Okay.
Well,
That's
so it
amazing.
depends on how much rain there is.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
So a light rain, oh yeah, just bring the umbrella, or maybe
Yeah.
not. Sometimes I forget the umbrella and I'm like halfway through and it starts raining. And it's like,
Yeah.
well, this is fun. I mean, it's
Yeah.
fine, When I was a kid, I used to love going out and playing in the rain. So it's like, oh, it's like kind of like a reminder of the good old days.
I love running I love running in the rain. It's just something that it gives me joy for some reason. I like it. Yeah.
I do also have a small treadmill that I can throw
Okay.
under my desk and use. I don't use it very often. I only use it like when it is raining. Usually I can fit it in at some point. I just look at what the weather looks like and okay, there'll be a little bit of a gap here and plan for that.
Right. Yeah, it's much better to be outside, to get the sunlight, the fresh air, the birds chirping, all those little things, they play into the reinvigoration of us, the energizing, and it plays into that mind aspect as well, where you mentioned taking calls, but you also mentioned just having your notes out. So you're with your thoughts here and oh man, I figured out how I can solve that problem, because you're not actively thinking about solving the problem. You're letting your subconscious go to work while you're just enjoying, being outside in nature and enjoying the walking. And it's not so strenuous that you're having to focus on, you're able to walk and chew gum at the same time, essentially.
Yep.
Are there any other habits that you do? I think journaling, meditating, those types of things, cold plunges, if you will, that you like to do.
They're not daily habits, but I do
Okay.
some form of exercise every day. So in addition to walking, I'll at least do a little bit of flexibility stuff, or on, I do weight train, and then I play hockey. So,
Okay.
regardless
When you
of the
said
day,
that, I
I'm
heard a
doing,
little hockey in there.
well, like I said, from Buffalo, New York,
Yeah, yeah.
basically Canadian.
That's funny. I have a couple questions that I've asked almost every guest on Networking with Nathaniel now. What's the biggest life lesson you've learned in your existence so far, and how did you learn it?
Hmm.
Uh-oh.
I've learned a lot of lessons. The
Yeah.
biggest life lesson is that I always have more to learn. I
Mm,
When I was in high school, in particular, I was kind of like not a know-it-all. Like, people, I don't think, thought of me that way, but I did very well on my grades. Like, straight A's, everyone knew it, smartest kid in the
mm,
class, and that really hit my, like, I guess my ego, or like my psyche. It's like, I can't be wrong. Like, I was hesitant to answer questions in class because I was like, well, I know the answer, but like, what if I don't know the answer and I'm wrong and I
yeah,
look silly? It's like,
yeah,
nowadays I'm perfectly fine saying I have no idea. Like,
yeah,
like the entitlement stuff, back to that. Like, I absolutely, if I took on a project like that, would need someone to hold my hand through it. Because I would have no idea. I would have some idea, but like you said, enough to be dangerous. And I don't want to be
yeah,
dangerous on a project of
right.
that scale. So, just learning that there's more to learn, and that I can
Mm,
figure out something from any conversation I'm having, right? Like, I know the point of this podcast is for me to come on and share what I know, but I'm also picking up on things from you, but also just from talking and explaining it myself. Like talking with new people, just being able to explain, be like, oh, that didn't land right. Like, what am I not saying properly or not
mm,
understanding myself, to be able to convey it properly, is a learning experience in its own right. So just always being like, there's always something to learn, whether it's more at like the educational, someone's going to inject information in my brain, or the more nuanced and subtle, like, oh, I'm just picking up on maybe how to have a better conversation, or how to explain myself better.
yeah. There was something that Pace said on this podcast almost yeah, it was 8.5 months ago. He was the last episode of 24, is being able to convey his high level knowledge and thoughts to like a fifth grade stand level,
Yeah.
being able to put those messages, put those concepts into the brains of people that don't understand those concepts. You've done a really good job here, so pat yourself on the back for sure, because I have real estate experience, which helps in a sense to our conversation that we're having, but there's a lot of things that I just don't understand, and done a great job of doing that on a basic level. So like you're saying, being able to improve your communication is an aspect of failing and learning and growing, and just being comfortable with, if I say something and I'm wrong and I get corrected, that's good, that's beneficial for me. If I'm not raising my hand to speak, then I don't end up learning. So I love that there's that mindset shift there. From, that's how we learn, is by failing, not by getting straight A's. I mean, you're learning by getting straight A's too, but uh, if you could go to dinner with anybody throughout history, who would it be, and what would you want to talk about?
Anyone in history.
Yeah.
I'm I'm tempted to say, and this is kind of a funny answer, but a real answer, but a funny answer, Teddy Roosevelt, because I want to be like, well, first of all, he was a great guy, seemed to have a lot of personality, even like a big, stressful role of being president of the United States. But
Yeah.
also just kind of be like, dude, what'd you do to me? Teddy bears? Come on. Like, but yeah, he seems like he would just be a big personality to be able to
Yeah.
learn a lot from, and just have a good time as well.
Yeah. Interesting. I love it. The answer there, I don't necessarily think it reveals a whole lot about the person, but sometimes it does. but it's just fun. Like I like that. I like the
Mhm.
question. Are there any books um, from a business standpoint, from a self-development standpoint that or otherwise that have impacted you in your life?
Yeah, the Bible.
Okay.
Uh,
Love it.
I so I'm a cradle Catholic. I've been a Christian my whole life, and up until this year, I have not read the Bible. I've read passages from it, of course, gone to mass and heard, the scripture read, but never actually sat down and read the thing. And I've started doing it this year, so I'm very far from actually completing it. I'm doing it very slowly. Every morning, I read a chapter, and that's it.
Mm,
I'm reading a very nice Word on Fire version that actually gives some really good depth and background to things, and helps it be a bit more than just like dry. Like, oh, I'm reading these words, and they're a little too beyond me, and I have no idea
right.
what's going on here. It brings a lot of perspective and detail to it, which is helpful. And the one thing I'm noticing reading it is that a lot of it does map onto business life. And there's a lot that so many things to take away from it that I could just apply to my life. And one thing, I don't know, it's just made me a more optimistic and, um, I guess, grateful person
Mm.
reading it. So
Where uh where are you at right now?
I am about halfway through the Gospel of Luke.
Oh,
So
okay, you're decent
So,
ways.
so actually, no, I'm not very far through it because this Word on Fire version, I actually have it with me right here. So this is just the Gospels, this thick thing.
Oh, okay.
And so they start off volume one, the Gospels.
Okay.
I'm almost done with Luke, and then I'll have John left.
Yeah.
And then I have this one, and this is volume two. And so I'm approaching it from a different, it's not reading like from Genesis on, I'm not
Right.
starting at the very beginning. I'm
Yeah.
approaching it reading the Gospels first, because that's what they recommended in this. It's like the whole story leads to a specific person, Jesus
Yeah.
Christ. So why not
Yeah.
start with that story and figure out what all this is about? So not saying that that's
Interesting.
the right way to do it, but it's just the way that I happen to be doing it. So
Yeah.
I'm not very far.
No, it, I don't, I mean, no offense. Almost like Star Wars. Okay. I don't know if you're familiar with we watched, they don't understand it. I had the 4.5-year-old, they just like watching it because they get to look at the TV, the screen. But we started with 4, 5, and 6 because like similar. If you know where this is, now when you go back, the oh, I see that I'm able to make these connections. I'm not very knowledgeable about the scripture at this point. I'm similar-ish to you. It's like I grew up in the church, and then I had 20 years of my life where I did not follow that well at all. And we decided to, gosh, it's going back 4 years, 5 years now. When Harland, our oldest, was in the womb, we started reading the Bible, not chronologically as far as page numbers go, but as far as like time and history goes. And we followed an app or something. So you started in Genesis, but then you would jump, around and kind of go back and forth. And so
Mhm.
it was just kind of similar. Just, hey, this is what they recommended. This is what we wanted to do. And now I've been doing a proverb a day for 3 months now. I've been doing that. And so there's 31 proverbs. And if you read one every day, you'll read it 12 times in a year. It's
Mhm.
almost darn near 12 times in a year. But I stopped that just recently, and I'm in Song of Songs now. That's just where I'm at. Okay, enough about me. uh, any other book recommendations besides the Bible? Because I do totally agree. If you just read that, it's pretty complete.
Mhm.
But are there any other ones that have kind of impacted you business wise or personal development wise?
The Go-Giver.
Mm,
Uh, the, Being in sub two, that's a phrase that gets thrown around a lot,
yep.
maybe without even knowing where it came from or the
Yeah.
gist of it. It's not just, the idea like, oh, I want to like help people, but I think the fact that like helping people will just come back to you in so many ways, whether you realize it or not. And yeah, so that was maybe the first book recommendation I got from Pace World. And
Yeah.
Thinking about it, I don't even know if I could tell you the exact details of that story and how it played out, but I at least remember the sentiment and the way it was like, yeah, like I want to be a go-giver.
Yeah.
And what's interesting, so my Word on Fire Bible, it has a lot of extra notes, and shoot, I remember that, I forget the guy's name, but it was a kind of like a ha moment for me. Was there was this guy who came over to the United States from, I think, Austria or something, and he did a lot of great charity work, etc. But the interesting thing is, because he was Austrian and English wasn't his first language, he was very obsessed with the detail of English and like how specific things mean certain things, especially in different contexts. And so I think he's the one who coined the phrase go-giver. He called it, he was like, well, I like the idea of being a go-getter, going out there and doing great things. But that kind of like also comes with like, I'm going to go get what I want, even at the cost of other people. So like, what if you were a go-giver?
Yeah.
And you can still get what you want, but you do it by building other people up with you. And so
Yeah.
it was a nice little like, full circle moment. It was like, oh, cool.
Yeah. Sometimes we can hear something 20 times, but hearing it from somebody different in a different way is what kind of ingrains it in. I was on a call last night, a mastermind call around mindset, and the giving aspect came. He called it the universal law. You cannot get without giving. I'm just going to go, because you brought this up, and I wanted to share it with you specifically, but anybody else that's learning is like, make your default state service. The more you give, the more you receive, right? And we gotta give without the thought of receiving.
Mm-hmm.
Give 10 for every one you receive. So this is from a coaching perspective. Is like, if I'm charging $1, I want to give $10 worth of value.
Mm-hmm.
Right? It's just like wrapping your brain around give. That's what he wants us to do, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to be remembered for, Teddy, by the people you left behind when your time on this earth is all done?
Ooh, that's a great next question, because I want to be remembered for giving more than I got. I have a real hard time accepting things from other people, or like, having them give me stuff. And for a long time, it was maybe like ego, like, oh, like I'm good enough. Like I'm a lone wolf. I don't need help. But nowadays it's more so like, well, have I given you the like value to where you should, I should be getting anything from you, to kind of like stem off this idea, and Pace, and me being not so great at raising large amounts of private capital. I remember Pace talking about you building a social media presence, and how that's very important for raising money. You need to show people that they should trust you, because people work with, lend to people they like, know, and trust. He's like, you should not, like, you do not deserve to ask anyone to invest in one of your projects until you've given them, and use number five pieces of value. So the same idea, 10 pieces of value. And so that's what I would like to be known for, is just being happy to give, and, go that little extra mile to, take care of the people that are my friends and family, and even not like, just anyone out there, just because I can, I'm in a position where I can help. So why not?
Yeah. I love it. Well, I appreciate you coming on, man. Taking time out of your day. At Teddy Benz on Instagram. Especially if you're a developer out there, reach out to him. Well, in both respects, a developer of land and a developer of apps and stuff.
I want all the developers.
Yeah. If you would hang out for a minute just to make sure that our recording comes up, I appreciate you, brother.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Teddy Benz, land development. I learned a lot. We went a little longer than we normally would because he had a lot of value to give to me from a land development perspective. I hope that you learned something here. If you're, a land investor out there, you took some value out of that. There's a lot of value just even if you're not land investing or in a real estate investor in your own right. If you want to learn more about what he's doing, you should be reaching out to him on Instagram, at Teddy Benz. You can get invested in his deals there, and just take away that mindset, especially from a young male perspective. Is that I can't speak to young females because I was not one, but we think we know everything. When you become that young adult, you're like, I know it. I don't need you, dad. I got this. It's not until we're able to release that thought that, man, still have so much to learn. And he's a shining example of that. He knows a lot about land investing, but he still has a lot that he has and wants to learn. And when we're able to give that up, say, I need to learn more so I can continue to grow more and continue to serve more people. That's when we really, really, really become powerful. If you have not done so yet and you made it this far into the video, you should probably subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed. And if you didn't click that like button, click the like button. This was a pre-recorded episode. We should be back live next week. I appreciate y'all for being here. Wednesdays, noon Eastern time. Later, y'all.